The British comedian Jasper Carrott is convinced that he attracts what he calls nutters. Now, most nutters are harmless enough, but some of them can be extremely dangerous. If you haven't seen the 1987 movie Fatal Attraction, starring Michael Douglas and Glenn Close, watch it and see what Alex Forrest, the female character, is prepared to do to her former lover. Now, during the research for our book, we met and interviewed a number of victims of women just like her. Some of our case studies are really shocking. What we found is that Jasper Carrott isn't the only man who attracts more than his fair share of nutters. There are quite a few of them around. Quite a few of the women that we've heard about have recurring personality traits. And it has to be said, dangerous men have similar personalities too. But we're focusing here on dangerous women. Some of their behaviours are simply different to men. Not better or worse, they're just different. Many of the dangerous women that we write about are sociopaths and psychopaths. Now, what are they? Well, a sociopath is defined as an individual who knows the difference between right and wrong, but is afflicted with an antisocial personality disorder. Sociopaths are rarely physically violent, but are often unscrupulously cruel and ruthless with their victims. Male and female sociopaths are estimated to be about 4% of the adult population, and about 70% of sociopaths grow up without a father. So, as an increasing proportion of divorced fathers are being denied contact with their children, while mothers are being given the primary care role by family courts, you can comfortably expect that the number of sociopaths is going to increase in the next few decades. Sociopaths and psychopaths both lack conscience, empathy, guilt and remorse. They don't care about anybody else, and sometimes they don't even care about themselves either, or what happens to them. You know, most diseases and disorders harm the person suffering from them, but these conditions are perverse because the innocent bystanders, the family members and the partners and colleagues, they are invariably the ones who suffer through coming into contact with them. Most people with these disorders refuse point blank to accept that there's anything wrong with them at all. Denial is one of the symptoms of a sociopathic or psychopathic disorder, and refusing to accept any treatment or cure is another symptom. They don't want to be treated. They either feel so great about being who they are, or they just dismiss their condition as somebody else's problem. Because it is. Now, as far as personality disorders go, there are many variations, but I'm going to focus on just two of them today. Do you know a woman who exhibits the following personality traits? She has an extreme and grandiose sense of her own self-importance. She has an assumption of very high levels of her own talent or success, or good looks, or her power and her beauty, even when these qualities are either absent or wouldn't be recognised by people that she knows. Does she insist on excessive and constant admiration? Does she have a belief that she has a high degree of entitlement because she believes that she's special and therefore demands special treatment? Does she have extremely selfish, self-serving and arrogant tendencies? Does she have a readiness to take advantage of other people in any ways that she sees fit? Does she have an inability to feel empathy for other people? Does she find it difficult to love others because a deep love for herself always comes first? Is she convinced that others are incredibly jealous of her, even when they're not? And would she be described as very high maintenance? If she has most or all of those symptoms, she probably has something called NPD, or narcissistic personality disorder. Can you think of an infamous woman like that, someone who used to be married to perhaps a legendary musician? No names. Anyway, what about this other, more common personality disorder? How many of the following behaviours apply to a woman that you know? Over time, it's become obvious that at the beginning of the relationship, she was on her best behaviour. She seemed to be your perfect partner. But have you found that the more that she's relaxed into the relationship with you, especially if you married her, the more of the real woman is being revealed? In the safe environment of the home, is she now letting out years or even decades of anger that she's had to suppress until now? Are you now the focus of these intense, even violent rages that seem to leap out of nowhere? And do these alternate between periods of being absolutely normal and is even loving towards you, which makes it then difficult to know where the hell you stand with her? Do you feel that she's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Is she a loving, caring person one moment and then somebody so vicious that you just barely recognize her the next? And do you wonder which one of her is real? And do you hope that it's just a phase that will one day go away, but so far it's got no signs of going away? And do you find that you're walking on eggshells most of the time, knowing that no matter what you say or do, it will get twisted and used against you in some way? And are you blamed and criticized for just about everything that's wrong in the relationship, even when the criticism doesn't even make much sense to you? And does that make you question whether you are being the unreasonable one, as she constantly tells you that you are? Do you feel that you're on an emotional roller coaster with really high highs when things are incredible and fantastic, and then low lows consisting of feelings of despair, depression, and grief for the relationship that you thought you had? And do you find that you feel that you're concealing what you think and feel because you're afraid of what her reaction will be, and it just doesn't seem worth the confrontation or a horrible fight or hurt feelings that will inevitably follow? And has this become so automatic for you that you now have a hard time understanding what you think and what you feel yourself? Are you afraid to ask for things in the relationship because you're being told that you're too demanding or that there's something wrong with you? Are you repeatedly told that your needs are wrong or unimportant? Do you feel nothing you do is ever right, or when you do manage to do what she wants, she suddenly presents new expectations because the rules keep changing and no matter what you do, you can't win? Do you feel helpless and trapped every time this happens? Are you constantly accused of doing things you didn't do and saying things you didn't say? Do you feel misunderstood a great deal of the time, and when you try and explain, she doesn't believe you or doesn't want to listen? Are you constantly put down, yet when you try to leave the relationship, she tries to prevent you in a whole variety of different ways? She tries declarations of love, or she promises to change, or she makes implicit or even explicit threats such as, you'll never see the children again, or nobody but me will ever want or love you. Do you have evidence of being lied to, perhaps? Does she violently deny lying and deflect any conversation away from the topic when you raise it? Or does she seem to manufacture accusations to prove that you're the liar? Do you feel that you're being manipulated and controlled? Do you regularly wonder whether you're losing your grip on reality because she's always putting you down or denying that you have a right to a point of view? And does she act normally in front of other people so that nobody would believe that if you said what was going on between you? And does she insist that you not have contact with family or friends? If she drinks or takes drugs, does her behaviour become more erratic and obnoxious? Is it next to impossible to plan anything such as a social engagement because of her moodiness or impulsiveness or unpredictability? And do you find that you're making excuses for her? And how often have you tried to convince yourself that that is all normal behaviour? Well, perhaps you're now thinking, wow, I had no idea that other people go through exactly the same as me. Well, if you did, you might like to know that she probably has BPD, or borderline personality disorder. And some BPD sufferers also have a history of eating disorders such as anorexia and bulimia. And threats to commit suicide are regular. Sometimes they're carried out, but mostly they're threats. And extreme fears of abandonment could come from childhood trauma, but their totally irrational, intense behaviour often encourages the very rejection that they fear the most. In Venus the Dark Side, we cover other personality disorders that dangerous women have too, and I hope you find that this video is useful. Please share it with other people who you think might find it relevant. Thanks for watching.